So Vijender Singh wins by fifth round stoppage, with the doctor effectively calling the referee to wave the fight off after the opponent Roya was cut. Looked like he was cut to the eye. To be honest, the fight was not a competitive fight. Vijender Singh comfortably won all 5 rounds, and I don't think he took a single punch of any note from the opponent. Now, that should be in the context of the fact that the opponent had lost 24 fights. I think he had gone 3 without a win, and he looked substantially the smaller man. So, perhaps with the fact that Vijender Singh is unbeaten, perhaps with in the fact that he's in his 30s, you'd expect him to be moved slightly more quickly than he is being. But obviously, with the potential market and future for him that Frank is trying to build out in India, they're probably not taking too many risks in terms of level of opponent. And for what it's worth, Vijender Singh did do some things very, very well in there. Obviously, the fact that he won every single round without taking a single punch, is clearly impressive. But I thought he landed the uppercut nicely from range. I think it's quite rare to see an opponent, to see a fighter who's 4-0 landing a rangy uppercut like that. I was also impressed by the way that he went to the body, both with sort of hooks up close to the body, also with the fact he was throwing a sort of long straight cross to the body, which was impressive. For me, areas of concern with Vijender Singh, number one is the jab. I feel like he lacks a real class left stick. He kind of paws with the jab and almost uses it as like a sort of place finder. I think at one point the referee even told him off for pushing his opponent with the jab as opposed to it being like a clean punch. And for me, a guy like him who's quite tall, quite rangy, likes to fight from range, he's going to be a lot better off as he steps up in level of opposition if he fights behind a stiff jab, which he doesn't seem to have at present. In terms of his movement, I didn't think he was the most dynamic mover around the ring. I felt he was slightly heavy on his feet. I mean, don't get me wrong, he had the footwork to run rings around his opponent tonight, but he didn't look to have class footwork. He was also slightly stiff in terms of his upper body. He was quite upright. There was no sort of head movement, no getting low. Very, very much almost like a. If you can imagine how David Price fights, I'm not saying it was that bad, but you know how David Price is kind of very, very upright, very stiff in his upper body, quite wooden, quite laboured, sometimes pushing out a jab. I felt there was times Vijender Singh was fighting in that sort of manner, but at other times he looked good. And as I say, he didn't take any punishment. He was landing some decent punches from long range. I thought his uppercut was nice. I thought his body work was nice. Realistically, I thought the Box Nation commentators were giving the opponent a bit too much credit tonight. They were saying things like Vijender Singh could make a real statement by beating this guy by knockout. This guy got knocked out in his very last fight. This guy had been stopped earlier on in his career by a guy who'd had 6 fights and only won 4 of them. You'd think someone with Vijender Singh's amateur pedigree could be stopping guys with 24 losses on the record, but potentially he's got talent there. We'll see. I'm not looking at him and thinking this is a guy who's a surefire world champion. I'm not looking at him and thinking he's a guy who's going to go out and beat Callum Smith or James the Gale one day. But he's clearly a guy with talent who does certain things well. He seems to naturally be fairly heavy-handed, at least at this level, which I guess is his journeyman type level. But we shall see. I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts on Vijender Singh. From what you've seen of him, are you impressed? Do you think he's got the potential to make it to the top? What sort of fights would you like to see him in? Let me know your thoughts, people. Many thanks for watching.